All right, welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. I'm Raf Diallo and joined by Conor Neville this week. We've just been interviewing Jack Byrne a little bit earlier on, just about his time with APOEL, returning to Shamrock Rovers for next season and discussing Ireland, and especially watching it from afar because with injuries and other issues, he wasn't able to take part in the squads in 2021. But before we get to that, Conor, I believe, and I was told and actually reminded by you that there's a very important draw date for the Republic of Ireland national team now coming up this week, which is the UEFA Nations League, which had kind of slipped my mind.
We've been promised a first place in the UEFA Nations League, as you're aware. League B, we're in again. It's very hard to get relegated from the UEFA Nations League. The first time we were relegated and they changed the structure to make sure that we stayed in the second tier. And then in 2020, a sort of famously difficult Nations League campaign where we scored one goal. Shane Duffy won a goal of the season, or goal of the year, in fact. We managed to come in ahead of Bulgaria somehow. So we're still in League B while Bulgaria descend to League C. Just a word on the structure of the draw tomorrow. When we discussed this before, we noted that so many of the teams seem to be much of a muchness. There are differences within them. Ireland are in League B and we're in pot 3. So we're in pot 3 alongside Israel, Romania and Serbia. So we can't draw any of those three. Pot 1 consists of Ukraine, Sweden, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Iceland. Yeah. Pot 2 is Finland, Norway, Scotland, on the crest of a wave at the moment, and Russia. Pot 4 is Slovenia, Montenegro, Albania and Armenia. So they're the 4 pots. Also worth noting, Ukraine and Russia can't draw each other because of various geopolitical shenanigans. I don't know how long ago they started this. Clearly it didn't apply in USA 94, otherwise we mightn't have got Northern Ireland. But certainly that hasn't been let happen at this time. So that's anything sticking out to you, Raf? Any draws you like? Who do you really want?
They're all quite evenly balanced. So just looking at it here in front of me, Iceland are not in a good place at the moment, just in terms of their golden generation. Well, obviously they had a very memorable Euro 2016, and then they went to 2018 generation.
You can say golden generation.
Yeah, well, relative to what had come before, they had a.
If England could say it for Gerrard and Lampard, Iceland can surely say it.
Yeah, but they're not in a good place at the moment. There are matters on and off the field that have been a bit of an issue there. Scotland are on the way up, so I wouldn't exactly be, unless we're drawing them in a major tournament, because they tend to struggle whenever it actually comes to an actual major tournament. But they seem to be in a good place right now. And then so maybe it would be the likes of Finland possibly that you're kind of looking at there.
Again. Do we want them again? Pot 2 there's a lot of tough teams.
It's the trickiest, yeah, and especially Norway. While they didn't qualify for the World Cup, yeah.
Any of them? Maybe Scotland are the best team there, are they?
Scotland, yeah, because they are they're in a playoff for the World Cup. Norway obviously have some very, very good players and are potentially, I think, in the next few years they should be qualifying for tournaments. So. And Russia are actually decent as well. So there's a bit of risk in that particular pot. I would say Finland out of the 4, I think might be the one that you're kind of looking at. Especially there might be revenge on the mind after a couple of matches we played against them recently in the last Nations League. And then of course we're in pot 3, so no Israel, no Romania, no Serbia for us. And pot 4 again, it's much of a muchness. Slovenia are decent. You could say the same at Montenegro. They fought back from 2-0 down against the Netherlands in the last window of the World Cup qualifiers. Albania, again, they were playing England in their qualifying group. And then Armenia, we haven't faced them for quite a while. And maybe they might be the ones that might be the handiest for us. But again, I think the way the Nations League is structured, it is very balanced. So there's very little between the sides that you're facing in each particular league.
The first thing to note, of course, is that the team with the lowest number of points in the recent World Cup qualification campaign is, from all the League B teams, who would you guess?
Well, ourselves probably, is it?
Yes, it is. It's yes. The Republic of Ireland, albeit we should add the caveat in here that we were in a 5-team group. So that's worth noting. And So the team we missed was obviously a 6th seed, unless you could count Oman or Qatar in that. I say Oman out of force of habit there, but this might not be a safe assumption. But we can assume we might have got 6 points against the 6th team, or at least 4 points. So that would have carried us above Armenia and Montenegro's tallies. So at least we should be able to take one of them based on form. Although you're telling me Montenegro are flying at the moment, so I'll take that.
I didn't quite say that. I just said they had a particularly good result at home to Netherlands at the when Netherlands thought they were about to qualify. So, but again, as I said, it's very evenly balanced, and who knows where all these teams are going to be at in terms of their level when it comes to June time, when that's the first window of it. Then September, because obviously the World Cup is taking place in the winter, or this time next year, essentially next year. So the international windows are open in June and September. But from an Irish point of view, of course, this is incredibly important for Stephen Kenny, because there has been some momentum built from the end of the World Cup qualifiers. Yes. And then the plan is obviously to carry that into the March window, and then of course June.
So we want basically Armenia, Scotland and Iceland. Is that who we're looking for? We're not sure about pot B, of course. It's pot 2. It looks very difficult, but yeah.
Well, as I said, Scotland outside of major tournaments are actually
We've been promised first place at any rate. I suppose the immediate concern is that the draw goes off without hitch, and that there's no software.
Yes, because of course you're referencing the Champions League draw that happened at the start of this week on Monday, which didn't quite go as planned, and of course they had to
let's hope the external software providers are up to scratch this time.
Indeed. But anyway, I think that brings us to a close now, and of course we can't leave the Jack Byrne interview waiting. So as I said, we were discussing his time in APOEL with Jack, and also returning to Shamrock Rovers. But the first thing I asked him with 2022 in mind was where he's at in terms of fitness and training level at the moment.
Yeah, all looking good. I've just been keeping myself ticking over, and I think we're starting back pre-season on the 20th. We'll be back in training. We'll just go into the gym beforehand and just do some fitness work and weights, and just kind of getting the legs going again before we start back out onto the pitch, I think on the 7th of January. So yeah, look, I've just been keeping myself ticking over as best I can, and I feel good. I feel in good shape, and we're just looking forward to it now. Looking forward to it all getting started again.
Good stuff. It's been a surreal enough year, I suppose, well, for everybody, given what's happening in the world at the moment. For yourself, obviously going abroad to Cyprus at the start of January, and then how everything kind of played out there. I suppose before you made the move, of course, Mick and Terry Connor were the ones that you would have known best. But did you have much contact with the club itself separate to them when you were kind of doing the negotiations, in terms of them giving you an idea what to expect and what the expectations were for you?
Yeah, I kind of I spoke to the club over there, and to be fair, they were great. Like, they obviously they put together a good financial package, and then obviously Mick and Terry were there. So I was speaking to Mick for a long time before, probably from around November. So it was kind of in the works, probably a month or two, even before they went over there. And I was obviously speaking to the club, and they were actually really good to deal with at that time. They were they seemed very professional. Obviously a big club, like, they played in the Champions League quarterfinals not so long ago. So obviously a big club, and it was just something different that kind of got me excited, and obviously Mick and Terry had taken a big chance on me the season before and given me my international debut, and they were obviously really good with me, and I knew going over there, if I could do well under them, and if they were going to stay there, then the opportunities that I might have brought off the back of that would have been good. But unfortunately they just didn't stay long enough, and that's just the way it panned out. But I don't regret it. Like, I did enjoy it. It was difficult at times, and it was hard, but I didn't regret doing it 1 minute. I loved my time when I went abroad to Holland. I liked Cyprus. I can't say I didn't like it. I liked living over there. I liked the lifestyle. Was over there with my girlfriend. We had a good time. You know what I mean? It was just the football just didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to, and the way I would have liked it. But COVID comes into it, and clubs are obviously struggling financially, and I get that. And I've obviously heard some stories before I went over about certain clubs over there, they do, but it was always APOEL that were always the top club and always, kind of fulfilling their contracts. But I think the European stuff and the COVID hit them hard, but I don't regret it. I enjoyed it, and obviously came to an agreement in the end, and I think everyone was happy to just call it a day there.
What was the most difficult part of adjusting to life over there, or was it perfectly easy for you?
It wasn't difficult at all. I enjoyed it. It wasn't as if I was trying to leave, or I was trying to leave the club. At the end of the day, I only played 4 games for the club, so I would have liked to give it a proper go. I think they would have liked me to stay and give it a proper go, but the way that the finances and everything that was going with it at that stage didn't really allow me to do that. I think we had to come to a mutual agreement that was going to have to leave. And we obviously couldn't do that in the summer. So it obviously went on a little bit longer than I would have liked. I didn't plan on being in this situation where I couldn't play until January. But I think they were kind of hoping that maybe I would have stayed and just kind of put up with what was going on. But I was never going to do that. It's not the English way or the Irish way where you can kind of do that to players and you can treat players in a certain way. So I didn't really agree with it. So kind of had to move. But it was fine. I enjoyed it over there. The club were great up until a certain point, and then but we didn't have a big barn or anything. It wasn't as if we left on really bad terms or anything like that. So I wish the club well, and I hope they can get back to the club that they once were.
It was a terribly disrupted season that year in Cyprus. They had to abandon it, I believe.
Yeah, so the season before, the couple of months before I went there, and that was where Mick and Terry kind of, they had a difficult job at that time, because in November, I think, or November, December, I think they got COVID and they were off for 2 or 3 weeks, the whole team. And then when they came back, I think they had to play like 8 games with, I think they only trained for a week after having so long off, and they had it was like a little break in the season, and they had like 3 games in a week then when they came back, and half a squad, and not many players available. And then obviously they went on a bit of a bad run before they just went over there, and then the club obviously made the decision to sack Mick off the back of that. But look, I think Mick got, I think it was 12 games or something. I think I played probably 4 games, and it's just the way it is over there. It's just they want results, and that was just the way it is. I don't think they probably could have judged me off the 4 games I played. So, people looking from the outside, they're not going to judge someone on 4 games. So, I think the stuff that was going on with the club was more, based on what was actually happening with COVID and stuff in the world at that stage. So, it was just all a bit all over the place, and probably just the wrong time for a move like that.
And how did you find out about what happened with Mick in terms of them making that decision? Like, how was it communicated to you? And then were you able to speak to him just before he left the country?
Yeah, so it was so we played the first game, and I was after being in isolation for 10 days, and I just got out of isolation. So they had played a game, I think, the couple of days before, and they got beat. And I hadn't trained. I was in isolation. I couldn't train with the team. So I think I trained the day before the game, and then I got me clearance that we could play in the game, and I went along to the game, and there was a VAR decision, and we got a penalty against us, and we were 2-1 down. We were losing the game. We had same thing again. We had a few players out with COVID and stuff, and we ended up losing that game. I came on. Mick said, "Look, can you come on? Can you give me 10, 15 minutes? Like, I need something." Like, I said, "Yeah." I said, "Of course." Like, you know what I mean? Probably wasn't ready to play, probably shouldn't have played, but I did. I played, I came on, and we still got beat. We got beat 2-1. We got back to the house. I was staying with Joe Garner at the time, the other English lad that just came over, and he rang us, Mick, on the way back, and just said, "Lads, sorry, that's me done." We were sitting in the house saying, what do you mean that you done, But look, that's football, and that's just one of those things. They had a bit of an argument after the game, and the president over there, he makes a decision, and that's it. You just stick by it, and we obviously he let Mick go, but I think Mick and Terry have won their court case, I think, with their stuff, so that's all sorted now. So I'm sure Mick is happy to put that behind them, you know.
What was your sense of how Mick was doing out there and how he was relating to the local lads? I mean, did he find it difficult in your eyes from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I was pretty close to some of the players in the end. Like, you know, I got pretty friendly with a good couple of the lads, and they all really like Mick. You know, they all really like Terry, which most people do who play for him. You know, they do love them. They do give it all, and I'm sure most people that play for Mick or Terry would say that they'll run through a brick wall for them. So, you know, the lads really liked them, and you know, looking at results, they obviously didn't start the season well, and then they picked up a couple of results as I was going over there. But the deal was kind of too far done. That when they started losing 1 or 2 games, you were thinking, like, they're offering me a 2.5-year deal, they're offering Joe a 2-year deal, the other English lad going over. So he wanted to get. They were in for a couple of another few English lads, which I knew from the Championship and League One. So I knew he wanted to get some of his own players in, and try and build a squad with his own players. And I think that was the reason why they gave him the job as well, because they knew he had a bit of pull and he could get some players over there to try and help them. And then, you know, at that time when they started losing a couple of games, and the deals are kind of too far gone that you're kind of thinking about pulling out, you know. And look, it was unfortunate what happened, but when a club offers you a 2.5-year contract and you're going over there with the coach and the club obviously, you know, giving you a big spiel about coming over, and you know the manager really well, you're kind of thinking, I'm at least going to get a couple of games here under Mick, so I can first of all show what I can do and try and help him. And first of all, if he gets his own players in, you're thinking, you know, hopefully they're thinking in their head, well, they have to sign a couple of players, so we're obviously thinking about leaving them in the job. You know, you're not thinking that someone's going to get sacked if the board are giving them a budget to go and sign, you know, 3 or 4 players at that stage, which they did. You know, so it was just a bit. It was a bit of a strange situation. But look, that's football, and these things happen. You know.
And then the next man who came in was Savas Pursaitidis, so he's the replacement for Mick. How did you find him? Because I know you said he gave you assurances initially before the injury happened, but was he communicative with yourself?
He was fine. Like, you know, it was. He was. Look, he didn't last too long. You know, he got sacked after the first game of the season. They got beat, I think, 4-0 at Paphos, and he got sacked. So he knew the job he was in. He needed results. You know, and I was obviously seeing the way the club was going, and I kind of needed to get a keyhole surgery on an issue that I had. So, you know, it was a time in February where you know, I knew the club wasn't going to be in Europe. The club actually pulled me and said, look, I think this is a good chance to go and get, you know, the operation done and come back in the season, come back for pre-season, and we'll go from there. Like, but you know, the manager didn't really have that much of a say, more or less coached the team, you know, and the board kind of looked after everything else. But the manager had his hands tied. Like, you know, there was lads in the team that were owed wages. You know, most of the team were owed wages. We're not talking about like 1 month, 2 months. We're talking about 3-4 months. So, like, he's having to deal with all that and coach the team and kind of put it onto the board and having board meetings all the time and stuff. So he had a tough job, but he was fine. Like, he was no problem. Like, you know, he was he had a different set of boys, and it was good for me to be there and see how, you know, Greek Cypriot coaches like to play as well. So yeah, it was okay. Like, you know, I couldn't say I didn't enjoy it. Like, you know, I did enjoy working under him, but at the same time, he didn't last too long. So even if I had been there for the start of the season, we had a new manager after one game anyways, you know.
Yeah, and the back injury came at probably the worst time in terms of the international stuff, because it was just before March, and obviously Stephen Kenny had been very supportive of your move, so there's a good chance he would have been called in for it. In regard to kind of watching Ireland from afar, obviously March wasn't the best month for the squad, but things have improved drastically since then. But what have you made of how Ireland have gone and how it's progressed and improved, and I suppose like in a very pressurised situation?
Yeah, no, I think the crowds coming back have certainly helped, and they always will with an Irish team. If you're going into the Aviva with 45, 50,000 Irish fans, backing you, you're going to have a better chance than when it's an empty stadium. But I just think it took a little bit of time for the players to understand what way he wants to play. It's like everything, isn't it? And you can see now that the players are starting to trust it and starting to believe in it. And you have, the likes of, because Shane is massive for us, like, and for him coming back to form now and doing well, and you can get him back into the team, and that's certainly going to help any Irish side over the last 10, 15 years, because he's a top defender. And the lads just look like they're enjoying it, and they look like they know what they want from the manager and the coaching staff, and they're brilliant. They're great people, and Keith Andrews, Stephen, really, really good people. Obviously Anthony Barry's in there now. We worked with Anthony at Wigan, so I know Anthony a little bit, and they're good people, and I'm sure the players feed off that as well, and they want to do well. And you can see the last couple of results, that the way they're trying to play, that it seems to be coming together quite nicely at the moment.
Yeah, especially with this back three. And I was kind of wondering, like, how, like, when you're watching the game from afar, like, how do you see yourself fitting into, especially when it's 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 as opposed to 3-4-3? You've the kind of Josh Cullen position. You've where the kind of box to box role Jeff Hendrick has, and then there's the kind of attacking midfield one. And I was wondering which one, when you're watching it from afar, you kind of prefer.
Any of them, to be honest.
As long as you get in the team.
Yeah, as long as you get in the pitch. Now, look, it's too far. It's too far away at the moment for me to be thinking about all that stuff again. I haven't played football at that level in a while. I haven't put in performances to merit being called up to that squad yet. At the moment, my focus is to try and get back to the level I was at. Obviously before I went over to APOEL, and a little bit of luck and a bit of hard work, I think I'll be able to do that. And then you can have a conversation. But Stephen's been great with me. I've been in contact with Stephen, and he didn't have to do that as well. Stephen, he could have was out injured and not available, and obviously going through some legal stuff over there with APOEL. He could have just not picked up the phone and spoke to me, but he did, and had some positive conversations, and he was always helpful to me. So look, I'm sure that's Stephen's headache if it ever comes to it, where he thinks I should play. But look, once you're on the pitch, you don't really mind. I'd like to think that I could offer something if I get back to my best. Yeah, of course.
Interesting the way you say it took time to adjust to Kenny's methods. What was the atmosphere within the squad during that 2020 Nations League campaign? Was there any sort of panic or dissent or
no? No, never. There's never really a downbeat Irish squad. Anyways, they're always together, always wanting to fight for the manager, wanting to fight for themselves, and wanting to fight for their families and their country. And that's every squad I was in, whether you were the 25th man, you weren't on the team sheet, or you were the starting 11. Everybody just wanted to do well, because you can't forget that players are fans as well, and if they're not playing, they still want the country to win. So there was always a good atmosphere around the camp, and of course it would take a little bit of time to adjust, and players being asked to play certain ways and take the ball in positions that maybe they might not have been used to before. And but I think the players are quite enjoying it, and they look like they're enjoying it anyways. And from speaking to them, they're confident that it's coming good. And the move from the camps that I was always in was always pretty positive, and the training sessions were always really good. It was always good, and you could always see what he was trying to build, and now it looks like it's coming good, really.
Because there was a consensus, of course, for years that you couldn't develop a style with a team. There wasn't enough time at international level. But I suppose what's been proved in the last years, there is, if you do it continually over a year and are patient with it. Yeah,
of course. I think it just comes down to players trusting the way that the manager wants to play, and manager trusting his own ideas and his own philosophy and the way he wants to play, and not changing for certain games, and trusting the players also. We do have good players, and we can play that way, And I think we've seen the last couple of games that we can play that way. So it is important that we keep going that way, and we try to develop players in that way. Because I've been in countries, I've been in Holland, I've been in the UK, I've been in Cyprus, and a lot of it is playing out from the back, and that's the way they want to play, and developing players in that way. So look, I think we can certainly do it here, and there's no reason why we shouldn't strive to be as good as the likes of the Dutch and all them playing out from the back. There's no reason why we can't do it.
Yeah, as you mentioned, all the places you've been, obviously the Netherlands, and then if we go back to Cyprus a little bit, obviously with the injury, is it kind of difficult when you're not able to get onto the pitch when you're abroad, I suppose, away from what would be your normal comfort zone, in terms of you just love to be in training with the lads, but obviously you can't?
Yeah, but it is difficult. Of course, you miss it and you want to play, and it was fortunate enough that up until that point, I had never missed a game, so I was always fit, always available. So, you have to take that. That was, going back 10 years when I first started out at Man City's under 15. So, you get a little injury and you're out for a couple of months, and of course you want to play, and of course it's disappointing because you've only just gone over there. You want to hit the ground running, you want to show people what you can do in new place, new environment. But these things happen, and I was still going in every day. I was busy. I was doing my rehab. The first month was difficult, obviously, because after the surgery, you can't really do much. But after that, I was cracking on. I got to know the physios, everyone, around the place really well. So it wasn't all doom and gloom. It was, it's just another challenge and another thing that you have to overcome in football and life. And that's just the way it is. Of course, you want to be playing, you want to be scoring the winner every week. But most of the time in professional football, that's not how it goes. It's ups and downs and sideways and backwards, and that's the way it is. But you just have to crack on with it and get on with it as best you can.
You touched on your early days at Man City. I suppose you may have noticed your route to sort of professional football has been closed off, I suppose, for Irish players now post Brexit. And there's been a lot of emphasis on trying to switch to a more homegrown system. I mean, I think the Ireland under-17s beat Andorra 5-0 in Turner's Cross a couple of months ago, and there was a lot made of the fact that there was no English-based player in the team. What is your view of that development? Do you think it's going to be positive, or is it going to cause problems?
Yeah, I don't see the issue of English-based players in the team as well, because if they have a right to play for Ireland, they have just as much as a right to play for Ireland as somebody living in Dublin, you know what I mean, or living here. If that's what they want to do, if they show a commitment to playing for Ireland, then that's fine. I don't see. It's just about getting as many good players as we can, young players and stuff. But I think will it hamper some of the top young players not being able to go over to a Man City or a Tottenham or a Liverpool? We don't know yet, because we haven't seen how it will play out, in the early stages of people's career. But I think it will certainly help the League of Ireland, and it'll certainly help the clubs around here. But you don't want to. The structure back here needs to be good enough for them to stay. When I was going away, when I was a kid, there was nothing here for me to stay. If I stayed here past 15, 16, what was I staying for? Why was I going to stay here? There was no Shamrock Rovers Academy. There was no, Bows, Kevins weren't linked. They obviously are now, but the standard needs to be that the top players are getting the chances that they deserve, and they can't be going out and playing against Cabin Teely every week. Evan Ferguson can't go out and play against Cabin Teely every week and score 10 goals if he's still in Ireland. He needs to be playing against Man City's under 23s, or he needs to be doing that. Obviously, he's the most recent one gone away and doing really well. So the structure needs to be in place so that if the players do decide to play here, that they either go into the League of Ireland, they make the League of Ireland teams better, they make them stronger, and they're ready to play, or they play, under 19s football that's competitive and worth their while staying here. Because if not, then it's a waste. It's a waste of time for them. Not going to get development that they need, and the top players deserve in this country. If they're not going to get that here, then it's a shame that they can't go away, you know. So there needs to be a structure put in place and a platform here for them to really kick on and show the best of their abilities while they're here. If that's the case, whether that's in the League of Ireland or some of them might physically not be ready to play in the League of Ireland if they're playing their own age groups underage.
And do you think there's a different attitude among young players now to the league than when you were starting out, given that the league seems to be coming along?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, the young kids now that would look at Shamrock Rovers and Bohemians as places that they actually want to go and play that football, and they know the players there. When I was going up to watch Shells, and, you know, obviously Wes Houlihan, all them lads were playing there, did I want to play for Shells? No, we still wanted to go to England. But you see a lot more of the younger lads now that actually do want to, you know, make that breakthrough and play in for a Rovers or play for a Bohemians, say, because they're going to the games, and there's a lot of younger crowds going to the games, and I think that helps, you know. But it'll just depend how it goes now over the next couple of seasons, because, you know, you see the young players that do well, the likes of Ross Tierney, and I think John Kenny was over at the Hibs game there the weekend. So you see a lot of them will move on, you know. So it's good to a certain extent that they do play here, and there is a lot of younger lads here. But, you know, we need to get a structure in place that we can keep the best players here, and, you know, that's what we will have to do if the top clubs want to be trying to play in Europe every season. You don't want to be losing, you know, your best players every year, and you don't want to be using your best young players. You want to be trying to keep them, but there has to be something here that they want to stay for, you know.
Yeah, and do you think it might open the doors for the under-18s kind of age group as well to go and do what you've done, and also another Irishman who played for APOEL, like Killian Sheridan, who's gone all across Europe and has had a really good career by doing that? Do you think that's another thing that might just open that pathway and open that doorway?
Yeah, well, it's not just England or Scotland, and that's the be all and end all, you know. It's my game probably just suit certain managers and certain styles, and that might not be England. There might be a certain manager in England that I suit, but, you know, I think there's doors out there for people. You just have to try and open them, and you have to try and, you know, but is that what the kids want to do? You know, is that the advice that the kids are getting, and are the kids brave enough to do that? I don't know. I was brave enough to do it. I went away at 19 to Holland. You know, it was a big step, but, you know, I loved it. I played, you know, a lot of games and done quite well, and you know, I loved it, and it was a great experience for me. So it just depends on the person, depends on the kid, depends on the opportunity that comes available to them as well, you know, and what one they want to take, and the advice they're getting as well, you know, because at the end of the day, a lot of the money is in England, and a lot of people's agents will push them towards that. But you know, I think if they do branch out, I don't think it'll be a bad thing if they do want to go across Europe. It'll certainly improve them in other ways.
Yeah, especially since there are a load of huge clubs over there. I mean, APOEL in a Cypriot context is absolutely massive over there. I think it'd probably be the equivalent of a United or a Liverpool in Cyprus. I mean, did you get a real sense of that while you were there, in terms of like when you into the streets and everything else, just how huge it is and how much interest they have?
Yeah, it is, and you know, I knew that going over before, because I obviously seen, you know, you start researching the club and all that, and you see what goes with it. And you know, they were a massive club. You couldn't lose over there. They didn't accept losing. You know, they were meant to win every single game, and, you know, they're obviously huge budget. You know, spending a lot of money, investing a lot into the team. So, you know, the fans expect them to win, and the fans want them to win. The fans expect them to be in Europe. You know, so look, if a team like that in Cyprus, and, you know, they always have 3, 4, 5 teams always in and around, you know, the Europa League and the Champions League playoffs, always doing well. So if a country like that can do it, you know, we can certainly do it here, and we can certainly have an APOEL in Ireland 100%. You know, it just takes a little bit of working together, a bit of investment, and a bit of push.
Yeah, and sorry, how passionate do they get? Obviously, they weren't in the stadiums because of the whole COVID thing, but I'm sure they're like just away from the stadium, it could get a bit heated.
Yeah, well, they they would smash the training ground up. Like, you know, it's happened a couple of times there. Like, happened once when we were over there that the training ground was smashed up and we lost a game. And, you know, they coming to the training ground with flares and having meetings on the pitch, the ultras with the manager and the team. And, you know, that's just the way it is over there. It's mad. But, you know, it was good actually looking at it, because you're thinking, you know, these people are putting their lives into supporting this club. And, you know, it's their be all and end all. Like, you know, it's APOEL or nothing over there for the ones that live in Nicosia. So, look, it was a good experience. Good to see it, you know, because, you know, it's not like that here.
You can appreciate that when they've gone, I suppose, can you? From the training.
Yeah, you can appreciate that when you're out there and you're on the flight safely home.
Now that you're back, I mean, I suppose Shamrock Rovers, you had 2 great seasons there in 19 and 20. I mean, is the primary aim Europe for next year, obviously, or another invincible season, perhaps? This, you know, a full invincible season.
Well, you know, I think it's just try and do as well as we can. I think if it's Europe, it's Europe. That's great. You know what I mean? If it's win the league, that's great. If it's win a cup, that's great. It's just trying to squeeze the best out of the squad and trying to do as well as we can. But obviously, I think, you know, everyone at the club would love to get into Europe. All the players would. Me, I would. I haven't played in Europe yet. So, you know, obviously it's always a big factor for any League of Ireland club really at the start of the season. If you can have a little run in Europe and do well, and, you know, I think we have the capabilities to do well. It's just about it all coming together, and hopefully we don't get AC Milan again.
Yeah, I was gonna. What was it like playing against them? Because you had a very good game in that game, particularly.
Yeah, it was brilliant. You know, it's a good experience, and obviously playing against players that we played with, and Man City, like Brahim Diaz, playing against him, and, you know them, and it's good. Like, you know, it's an interesting experience, and, you know, it's difficult obviously to beat them or to take them on, especially when there's no one in the stadium. But would have been a great occasion for the fans, and, you know, if there was people there. But look, touch wood that, you know, they can be there next year, and we can hopefully get them in the group stage.
Yeah, was there much behind, you know, before the Rovers move was confirmed, there was talk about Charlotte FC in the MLS, that it was just in the papers at the time, and I think it was especially Christian Latanzio, the coach I think you would have worked with at City, was there. Was there any discussion there, or was that just paper talk, as one would describe it?
No, it was, like, I know Christian. I'd be in contact with Christian loads, like, you know, since I left Man City. So he's a good friend, and you know, he's obviously working over there, and they're a new franchise, and they've just been set up. So look, maybe the timing wasn't great on that one, and, you know, who knows, someday maybe it'll come around again. And but, you know, he's always been a great help to me in my career, and himself and Patrick were obviously me manager for, you know, a big part of my development and a big push behind me going to Holland that time. So, you know, he knows the type of player I am. He knows, you know, the environment that I would do well in. Very complimentary of Stephen, the way Stephen's teams play, Stephen Bradley. So, you know, it's a conversation that could come up again, maybe in the future. But, you know, I hope he does well out there. And obviously had a couple of offers. I'm not going to say which, but, you know, I think just at this moment in time, I see myself just playing here. I love the club. I love Shamrock Rovers. I love the coaching staff there. I love the players when I was there. I love the feeling I got when I was there. So I just want a bit more of that back and try and kick on.
And it's probably a benefit that people kind of forget as well, because especially you've been, like, when you go over to City and then you go to Netherlands, Cyprus, you're away from family, friends, the people you've kind of grown up with, and then there's that kind of privilege of actually being there with them around you, like 7 days a week.
Yeah, no, it is. It's brilliant. Like, but, you know, football, like, it's just life moves on. You know, you're not 18 and you want to be at home every day, and you want to be sitting on, you know what I mean, you're homesick or anything like that. I wasn't homesick when I left Cyprus. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a football decision and something that I wanted to do, where I really enjoyed my football. Of course, I'm happy at home, but, you know, we finish training at 1 o'clock every day, and, you know, we might not see my friends from one end of the week to the next. And, you know, we obviously see our family, and and all that. But most of the time, people are working till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. We've got the luxury that we finish a little bit earlier. So most of the time, you're just at home anyways, and you're just trying to relax and prepare for games. So, but obviously, it is good to be at home, and it's nice to be back in Dublin because I'm familiar with the place and I know the place. But it wasn't the main reason why I wanted to come home. It was more the footballing reason.
Yeah, and it wasn't for the weather either, obviously, I'd imagine. But yeah, before we let you go, of course, Sergio Aguero has just announced his retirement just due to a heart issue. You would have been in the youth teams when he was playing first team for the long 10 years he was there at City. Like, would you have interacted much with him, or even like trained alongside him? And what are the kind of memories that jump out about him?
Yeah, no, he was always very good to us whenever we went up training. He was always a gentleman. Didn't speak a lot of English, just one-liners, a few funny words here and there. He was a good pro. Like, he used to train well. And look, it's just obviously disappointing what's happened. I can't say nothing but good things about him from whenever I've been around him. So look, I just like to wish him well and hope he's not too sick, because it didn't look good. Obviously having to retire with, I think it's hard problems. So look, when we used to play games and stuff, he's probably one of the best finishers I've ever seen. He was a joke. Like, he was an unbelievable footballer. And even if you finished training, he'd always let you join in the shooting and any of that stuff. And a lot of them wouldn't let the young lads join in, but he'd always say, "No, come get a ball, join in." So, all that was good. So, I hope he's okay first and foremost.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, one of the best finishers the Premier League has ever seen, and just, I suppose, La Liga and wherever he's played internationally as well. But Jack, look, thanks a million for taking the time. Looking forward to seeing you back in the League of Ireland in 2022.
Cheers, lads.
Following how you do with Shamrock Rovers, and then hopefully back with Ireland as well. So thanks for taking the time.
Fingers crossed. Thanks very much, lads.
All right, that was Jack Byrne. Good chat there. Conor Neville, I think that's us done for this week on the RTÉ Soccer Podcast.
Seems to be it.
Yeah, things to be done.
From the youth team here.
Yeah. Well, that's if that's how we're being described now. But anyway, yeah, we'll be back next week. You can follow the podcast on @RTÉ Soccer on Twitter, or also on the RTÉ Sport Facebook page. But that's it for this week. Best of luck.